It's good to see you again. Welcome to the evening campfire. It's blazing and it's hot. And we have lots of little friends coming to visit, mosquitoes and things. But you're welcome to join me. Grab a spot on the grass and wiggle your toes. We have one more story left. And it goes all the way back to the beginning. God created the world. God created man and woman. And Adam and Eve, they sinned. God sent them out of the garden with a promise that one day he would send someone that would reunite them to him. Someone that would destroy the evil one. Well, that's the person we talked about the last two times, Jesus. Jesus came as a baby, and Jesus was baptized. And at his baptism, remember that God said, "This is my Son in whom I'm well pleased." For 3 years, Jesus walked the face of the earth as they knew it in that area. He talked to people about God, about how wonderful God the Father was, how much he loved people, how much he desired them to change their ways and turn back to God. Jesus had 12 special friends, and they learned with Jesus more and more about God the Father and about the Holy Spirit. And one night, after supper, they went out to the Garden of Gethsemane. They probably heard the birds. So there was Jesus and 11, because one of them was missing. Judas had left the supper early. Jesus had said that Judas would betray him. So the disciples came out with Jesus to the Mount of Olives, to the Garden of Gethsemane, and he told most of them to stay back. And then Jesus went on a little farther with 3 of his closest friends. Peter and John were 2 of them. And he told them again, he said, "You stay here and watch and pray." And then Jesus went off farther. And he prayed and he prayed. But what he prayed was, "Father, if there would be any other way that I could save your people, then show me. But if this is the only way, then I'll do it." After a while, Jesus was finished praying. He went back, and there he found his 3 disciples, the ones that were closest to him. You know what they were doing? Sleeping. The night had just got long, and they were tired, and they went to sleep. But Jesus asked them, "Could you not stay awake 1 hour and pray with me?" So Jesus went off again, and he prayed again, "Father, if there's any way that we can return your people to you without me having to do what's about to come, then show me, I'll do it. But if it's your will, Father, that I do this, then I will." Well, Jesus finished praying and went back, and what was his 3 disciples doing again? They were sleeping. He was about to let them sleep when all of a sudden there was a commotion. Soldiers had come. And with the soldiers was Judas, one of Jesus' special 12 friends. And Judas had told the soldiers, "The one I approach and kiss as my brother and special friend, that's the one you want. And sure enough, Judas went up to Jesus and gave him a kiss of greeting. And Jesus said to Judas, "Do you betray me with a kiss?" So the soldiers came and they grabbed Jesus. And seeing that, another of Jesus' special friends, his disciple Peter, pulled out his sword and went and cut off the ear of one of the men. And Jesus said, "Put the sword away." And Jesus bent down and restored the man's ear. It was completely healed. Then Jesus said to the soldiers, "You have me. Let these others go free." So the soldiers took Jesus away. He was arrested. And the disciples, all of Jesus' special friends, ran away. But two of them changed their mind. John and Peter, they followed at a bit of a distance. They took Jesus to 3 different places to see Caiaphas. He was high priest, and with him were many of the chief priests and priests, teachers of the law, and also to Herod, who was king. And they took him to Pilate. And all of the time they traveled back and forth between these 3. They kept challenging Jesus. "Are you really the Son of God?" And Jesus would say, "So you say," or "Yes, I am." But these 3 men of authority really didn't hear what Jesus was saying. They didn't believe that Jesus was the Son of God. So when the high priest heard that Jesus said, "I am the Son of God," he tore his clothes. He ripped his clothes open. It was a sign of shock, disbelief, and he yelled, "Blasphemy." So he passed Jesus, this was Caiaphas, he passed Jesus off to Pilate, saying, "He must die. Jesus must die. He blasphemies our God." Soldiers beat Jesus. At one point, they even put a crown on his head. Not a royal crown, a crown of prickly thorns. And on his body, they covered him with a royal-looking robe. And Pilate did say, "Let him be crucified." Let him die on a cross, is what crucify means. And they sent Jesus out with the soldiers and with 2 other men. They were thieves. Jesus was nailed on a cross on a hill called Golgotha. With him were 2 men, both thieves, one on either side. And the people down below were mocking Jesus and still calling names and saying, "If you're so great and you heal others, why can't you save yourself and come down off the cross?" But Jesus did this all because he knew there was a reason. There was a plan. Middle of the afternoon, the sky started to turn black. It's getting dark here. The sky started to turn black, as if it was night. There was an earthquake. Some of the tombs, the graves opened. And at one point, the crowd heard Jesus say, "Father, I forgive them." Another time, they heard Jesus say, "Father, into your hands I give my spirit." And then Jesus died. And friends of his, once they realized he was dead, went back to one of those three important men, Pilate, the governor. And he said, "Our friend Jesus is dead. Can we take his body now?" And Pilate sent soldiers out to make sure that Jesus was in fact dead. And when he learned that, he said, "Yes, give the body to this man." So Joseph of Arimathea and another man, they took Jesus' body down off the cross. They wrapped it in cloth. And Joseph of Arimathea had a brand new tomb that had never been used. It was a place to bury dead. And he said, "Put Jesus' body in my brand new tomb." So they put his body in the tomb and they rolled the stone in front. A great big huge stone would take more than one person to move. But the high priests and the chief priests, they kept saying, "What if his disciples come and steal his body? This man said he would rise from the dead in 3 days." So they took wax and they melted it where the stone met the tomb. And they put a seal, a mark in there, that if that wax was broken, they would know somebody opened the tomb. The men really didn't have time to prepare Jesus' body because it was almost time for Jewish Passover. As soon as that time of dusk came, they had to be back in their homes and not touching a dead body to be able to properly celebrate. So in a hurry, they had buried Jesus in this tomb. And he was sealed from the world for 3 days. Now, did Jesus die on the cross because he was a thief or a sinner? No. He was a good man, pure, did no sin, but he died on the cross to be the final sacrifice in our place, you and me. He gave his life for us in love. But there's more to the story. Don't go away. Early on the morning of the 3rd day, a couple of ladies that had been in the group that always followed Jesus, they carried baskets of spices and hurried to the tomb because they wanted to open the tomb and prepare Jesus' body properly for burial. On the way, all of a sudden they realized, who will roll the stone? But when they got there, they realized it wouldn't be a problem because something amazing had happened. Sitting on top of the stone was an angel, and he asked the women, "Who do you seek?" And they said, "Jesus of Nazareth." And the angel replied, "He is not here, he is risen. Go and tell Jesus' special disciples, his special friends, that he will meet them in Jerusalem." Well, the women got up and they ran back to Jerusalem. And when they got back to where the disciples were hiding, still hiding after 3 days, they told them, "Listen, Jesus is alive. We were told by an angel that he is risen." Well, the disciples were amazed at this news, and Peter and John took off and ran back to the tomb. Now we're told that Peter got there first, but John actually went in to see if there was anything in the tomb. And what he found was those claws wrapped around Jesus' body were just laying to the side. But the cloth that they had carefully laid over Jesus' face was folded and set carefully on the bench. What an interesting thing for them to find. But they knew that Jesus was alive. So they went back and told the other disciples that Jesus had risen. Now let's look at that folded napkin a minute. Twice it's mentioned in one of the scriptures that that napkin was folded. It was just a piece of cloth to cover his head, but it had purposely been folded, not just thrown to the side like the other cloths. So just as he had promised, Jesus died and he rose from the dead. And he did that for you and for me, so that all that believe in Jesus may go to heaven one day.